Hello, and welcome to our live Q&A. Welcome, everyone. Please do share with me where you are from and do post your questions regarding the masterclasses that you've been watching. So we've covered in the first two masterclasses 15 factors that impact fertility. And we also looked at which investigations we recommend that you have done in order to investigate which of the 15 factors could be a reason why you are not able to get pregnant or stay pregnant or are contributing to your infertility. So I see some questions have started coming in. The first question is, what causes blighted ovum? So blighted ovum is when you get a positive pregnancy test, and you may even have all of the symptoms of pregnancy, but when you go for your first checkup, there's only gestational sac. There is no embryo inside the sac. And this is very sad and heartbreaking. And most of the causes of blighted ovum are due to genetic issues, either with the egg or with the sperm. As you have learned, 50% of the genetic material comes from the egg, the other 50% comes from the sperm, and there could be genetic issues or abnormal number of chromosomes in either the egg cell or the sperm cell or both, and that can then predispose to a very early miscarriage. So the best way to prevent blighted ovum or very early miscarriage or miscarriages in general, which is the second question, how to prevent miscarriages, is to really properly prepare for pregnancy for at least 4 to 6 months prior to conception. I know that may sound like a lot of time for many of you who've been on this journey for a very long time. However, properly preparing for pregnancy ensures that you have the best possible egg quality and the best possible sperm quality at a time of conception, which then increases your chances of success, whether it's through natural conception or through IVF, and also reduces the risk of miscarriage. Rushing into pregnancy with suboptimal egg or sperm quality can often lead to miscarriages, which then set you back again by a good month to 3 months, depending on how far along you were at a time when you miscarried. So I hope you learned in these two masterclasses the importance of paying attention to the 15 factors that can impact your fertility, and also the importance of investigating whether any one of those factors or more is contributing to your current situation. All right, there's some more questions coming in. How to improve egg quality? That's an excellent question. So women are born with all of their eggs. However, these eggs are in their primordial form. So they're not in the form in which they get ovulated in. So the primordial form of an egg cell is a similar form to a stem cell. A stem cell can become any cell in the body, whereas primordial form of an egg cell can become an egg cell. So from puberty until menopause, a group of these primordial cells is selected for maturation. And this maturation process lasts 4 months or 120 days or 16 weeks, which is the precise duration of our program. So during these 4 months, everything that you eat, everything that you get exposed to, any nutrient deficiencies can impact the outcome of how that egg turns out, how it matures. So During these 4 months, the egg cell will also undergo 2 sets of meiosis, or the so-called cellular division. And it's these 2 sets of cellular divisions that will determine the final number of chromosomes and the final health of the egg cell. So the egg cell at the time of ovulation should have 23 chromosomes, and it should be paired up with a sperm cell that also contains 23 chromosomes to form an embryo of 46 chromosomes, which is a normal human embryo, which can then be XX for a girl or XY for a boy. So the best way and the only way really to optimize the egg quality is to identify the 15 factors that impact your fertility. So environmental factors, whether you have genetic polymorphisms, evaluation of your lifestyle and your diet. Are you eating certain things or doing certain things which are not necessarily helping you to get pregnant or stay pregnant? Your sleep quality is super important, in assessing your nutrient deficiencies. Also looking for immune dysfunctions. They're quite common these days. Many people have some form of an autoimmune condition. Then we also have to make sure that you're ovulating, that you're producing cervical mucus, looking also at the digestive function. You could be eating the best food in the world, but if your digestive function is suboptimal, you're not able to absorb or assimilate those nutrients, which then is not good either. Your weight, either being overweight or underweight, neither is good for egg quality. And then there are additional factors such as electromagnetic radiation, infections and inflammations, stress and emotional factors. They tend to be underplayed, but because everyone has stress to a certain degree in their life, and everyone's dealing with certain emotional factors, these these 2 areas get not really ignored, but they're kind of dismissed, but they can play a huge role also in how your eggs turn out, because, or how they mature, because that also impacts your hormonal balance. So, and final point, hormonal issues. So your hormones very much will determine also the quality of your egg. We don't have tests as such that can assess egg quality like we have sperm analysis that can tell us all about the sperm quality. So many fertility clinics look at your AMH as a way to determine whether or not you have good egg quality. But AMH doesn't tell us anything about your egg quality. It tells us only about your ovarian reserve. So for IVF, this is important because you have to have a good ovarian reserve for their procedures and the stimulation drugs to work properly. If your ovarian reserve is diminished, then they're not going to be able to stimulate your ovaries to the point where they will collect enough eggs that are necessary for the procedures. So in IVF clinics, AMH is important. For natural conception, it's not really important. A much better marker of egg quality is your FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, because that tells us how much estrogen is circulating in your system, and approximately tells us how good the egg may be. But by ensuring that you're getting all of the nutrients which are key for egg maturation and for healthy embryo development, we are increasing your chances of maturing a good quality egg, which will then hopefully be fertilized by a good quality sperm. So that's leads me to the other question that we received. Can men improve sperm quality? Yes, absolutely. Sperm quality can be improved. And I believe in the second masterclass video, you've seen the story where we showcased a sperm analysis, how it improved over a period of 6 to 8 months. There were 3 analyses there, and the third one was the best. which was done right before they got pregnant with twins naturally. So it's absolutely possible to improve sperm. And the reason for this is that men produce new batches of sperm every 72 to 76 days. We say 90 days sometimes too, just to make it easier. Oftentimes it can be a little bit confusing, but when you have a sperm analysis done, if there's something not quite right, the clinic may ask you to come back in 3 months to assess the sperm again, to do another sperm analysis. It's for that reason. They're waiting for the new batch of sperm to form to see if this particular batch would be better. And as you've learned, there are many factors that can negatively impact sperm quality in men, from antibiotics to dietary factors. A man who just eats fast food or lots of refined carbs or fats which have been damaged, or if he's drinking a lot of coffee, drinking alcohol, if he likes to use saunas, if he likes to ride his bicycle. These are all factors that can increase the scrotal temperature. They can damage the sperm, which are developing and maturing over this 3-month period. So again, by identifying these factors and addressing them, and by providing the body with all of the key nutrients it needs to address, to help mature healthy sperm, we can improve the sperm quality. But it's also important to realize that it's not just about making a few changes in your diet or taking a sperm boosting supplement. Sometimes there are underlying issues. There could be infections, there could be inflammations, there could be nutrient deficiencies of specific kinds, and these are not necessarily nutrients that are part of the Boost My Fertility list. And there could be other reasons. There could be psychological reasons why a man would not want to be a father, or emotional reasons. And all of these can impact the ability to produce good quality sperm and to achieve pregnancy with that sperm. So again, you need to take a holistic approach. You need to assess the person as a whole, not just based on the condition they're currently dealing with. And then you are at a much better place to improve the sperm and to get the outcome that you want. So the next question that I received is how to know which supplements to take for fertility. That's a great question, because there is a jungle of supplements out there. There are so many companies making fertility supplements, and we've been in this space online since 2007. So we've been around for over 14 years, and I've just seen supplement companies explode, especially in this particular area, because fertility and infertility is unfortunately becoming a real issue for many couples, regardless of the age. So again, when it comes to choosing the right supplements for you, it's best to rely on expert advice of your naturopathic practitioner, who's also specialized in fertility, because they will be able to determine, based on your case analysis, what you need the most. And based on the tests that they recommend to help clarify your case, to get more insight into certain functions of certain organs or systems, they will be able to see what exactly you need. And it's not just vitamin E, for example, but it's a special type of vitamin E that you may need, or a special type of zinc that you may need. So it's not just any zinc. And this is why it's important to work with someone who's qualified in this area, who can really guide you and who can also prescribe good quality supplements, which will reach the target organs, which will be bioavailable, meaning that the body can absorb it. A lot of the supplements can be of such poor quality that the body can't even absorb them, so they just go straight through you, and that's, you know, waste of money. So really important not to self-prescribe, and especially once you start taking supplements for specific things, like the liver or the thyroid or improving your gut function. It's really important that this is tailored to your individual needs rather than you know, just taking something that your friend told you has worked for her, or you've seen an ad on Facebook or somewhere that this is a good supplement. So just be mindful of that. All right. The next question that's come in: can the program help with endometriosis? That's a great question. So endometriosis is a very complex condition that impacts your reproductive system, but it also involves your endocrine system, and oftentimes there is your metabolism, your thyroid's involved, and also your immune system. So as such, it's a very complex condition that can manifest in many different ways for women, and it doesn't always have the same presentation. So again, it needs to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. What are the triggers for your endometriosis? What makes it better? And then you will receive a treatment that will help reduce the symptoms of endometriosis and help you conceive. During pregnancy, endometriosis tends to calm down anyway, and post-pregnancy, if you need to have additional management of endometriosis, we can also do that with dietary and lifestyle adjustments and with supplements. So the other question that's come in is about the environmental factors. How do xenoestrogens impact our bodies? That's a great question. So we often talk about xenoestrogens, but we don't necessarily explain how it all works, because most people understand that the hormones are produced inside their bodies. So when we talk about xenoestrogens, we're talking about foreign estrogens, so substances that behave as our own estrogen. It's just that these substances come from outside of our body, so they're not produced by our body. They can come through the skin from personal care products, potions, lotions, oils, makeup, hair color, nail polish, perfume, essentially anything that you're using on a regular basis needs to be closely examined. So for example, your moisturizer, your body lotion, your deodorant, your toothpaste, these are the things that you're using on a daily basis. And same with shower gel, shampoo. They really need to be investigated for their ingredients, because they could contain ingredients that can get absorbed through the skin or through the mouth, if we're talking about the toothpaste. And then they can get access to your bloodstream, and they can travel to the organs, and they can exert the same action by docking onto the receptor sites for that specific hormone, so estrogen, and can create chain reactions as if your body has sent some estrogen their way. So that's one way. The other way is through water, through food. So if you're eating food that has lots of pesticides in it, or antibiotics or other drugs, growth hormones, for example, are often used in farming, if it's not organic farming. So you need to be mindful of that, because what you're eating in terms of your food, it's not just the plant or the meat, it's also all of the things that that animal has been given, or that that plant has been sprayed with, and also the soil that plant is growing in. It can sound sometimes a little bit overwhelming and complicated when you hear it like this, but it really is not. That's why you have a coach. You work with someone who'll be analyzing what you're eating, what you're getting exposed to, who can then tell you, you know, this should be, you should change this for this product, you should stop using this, you should look for an alternative, you should filter your water with this particular filter. So there's lots of things that your coach will be able to help you with, so you're not doing this on your own and feel like it's just all too much, too difficult. The next question that has come in has to do with the immune dysfunction. So how do we tell if you have an immune issue? So that's a great question, and it can often be quite difficult, because people don't necessarily know that they have Hashimoto's, for example. They know if they have asthma, they know if they have eczema or psoriasis. These are sort of more obvious ones. But if you have a food intolerance, which is not the same as food allergy, it can be quite tricky. Same thing if you have an autoimmune condition that's not necessarily expressing itself fully yet, because it's in its subclinical stage, meaning the numbers in your lab work can tell us you're headed in that direction and you're already having some issues in terms of your ability to conceive, because immune system that is overreactive at a time of conception can actually lead to a miscarriage. It can lead to you not getting pregnant at all in the first place, because the immune system is preventing the fertilized egg to implant. Strictly speaking, a fertilized egg or an embryo is a foreign entity. It's no longer your genetic code alone, okay? It's a combination of yours and your partner's sperm. Your immune system is programmed to destroy anything that's not its own tissue. So as such, if it reacts in that way, it can actually contribute to a miscarriage. And there are lots of treatments that IVF clinics offer for immune issues, which sometimes work, sometimes they don't work. It just depends really, but sometimes you have to find a really good expert in that area that will give you the right combination of drugs and medications to tweak your immune system enough to hold on to that pregnancy. Sometimes these treatments are not necessary, because oftentimes an autoimmunity can come from a simple vitamin D deficiency, or it can be because you have an underlying infection, or there's actually some type of toxicity, a heavy metal that the body is desperately trying to get rid of. So it's activating the immune system. So again, you need to explore the reasons why am I having this, and your treatment will then again be tailored to your individual needs. It will be tailored to the cause of the issue, and not just a general immune system protocol for everyone who's got elevated NK cells or some other markers. So that's important to remember. Sorry, just taking a sip of my tea before I continue. All right, what other questions have come in? So the genetic polymorphisms, right? How important is it to know if you have any genetic polymorphisms for fertility? So that's a great question, and it's a very important one, because we all have some genetic polymorphisms. I'm yet to see a genetic polymorphism report that's all in green, meaning no mutations detected. And when we talk about genetic polymorphisms and mutations in this context, don't think of them as necessarily bad, because many of these were evolutionary steps forward. Certain genes had to morph or change in order for certain evolutionary steps to be made. For example, the COMT gene, we now know that people who have polymorphisms of the COMT gene produce higher levels of dopamine, which is a stress hormone, but at the same time, this dopamine gives us incredibly sharp focus and the ability to complete tasks very efficiently and effectively. So people who have this tend to be in leading positions, either CEOs or somewhere higher up in their companies, because they're the leaders, they're the ones showing the way. And it is believed that this mutation took place to create leaders originally in the smaller tribes to move people away from bad situations to better places. So if you have that, you're not going to be processing estrogen very well either, and stress hormones are going to be a bottleneck for you. So your body's not metabolizing stress hormones really well, which means that it's not such great news for fertility, but we can treat it. There are supplements and dietary and lifestyle adjustments that we can use to manage it better. So it is important that you check your genetic polymorphisms, that you see if you have any, and if you do, that you get professional advice on how to address them, because unaddressed genetic polymorphisms can predispose to miscarriages, can predispose to chromosomal issues in the embryo, can also predispose to unexplained infertility and a host of other health issues down the track. So identifying them and addressing them sooner rather than later is very helpful. All right, let me have a look at the other questions that have come in. There's one question about electromagnetic radiation and how and why can this impact fertility. So it's a difficult one for people to really grasp, because the Wi-Fi is invisible, it's tasteless, you can't see it, you can't feel it. Some people can feel it. Some people say when they hold their phones up to their ears that they can sort of feel some sort of buzzing, or if they speak to someone by holding the phone to their ear, their ear gets really hot and the side of the head gets really hot. So that's one way some people feel it. But essentially, electromagnetic radiation impacts the frequency at which your DNA is replicating. Okay, so all of our cells divide all the time. To divide, it needs to replicate the DNA. When we're talking about the egg cell and the sperm cell, they're the fastest dividing cells in our bodies. And once a woman becomes pregnant, her embryo is the fastest dividing cell in her body. So the electromagnetic radiation targets the cells that replicate really fast. As such, it targets egg cells, sperm cells, and an embryo should you be pregnant. So being mindful of how many devices you're using, being mindful about the Wi-Fi in your area is really important. For example, in my office, I don't use Wi-Fi. I have Ethernet cable. So I'm very sort of old school. Also, my keyboard has a wire. Again, you can get lots of wireless devices and gadgets, but they all have to communicate somehow, and they're sending out signals, and too much of electromagnetic radiation around you is not good. So you can switch off your internet, your modem at night to reduce the amount of radiation in your house. You can use a headset instead of holding the phone to your head, or you can just put your phone on speaker if you can, if you're alone. So these are some of the ways you can minimize the amount of radiation that you expose yourself to. And in the program, we also share lots of useful tips on what you can do to reduce the radiation in your home and how you can protect your body. So, but electromagnetic radiation is the one factor that we often overlook because it's not in our face as such, and we've all gotten accustomed to using all these devices and gadgets. It's kind of just second nature. We don't really pay much attention to it, but we really should. All right. Are there any more questions coming in? And if lots of questions come in which don't get answered during this live, we will answer your questions below the video. So that will be addressed, so don't worry. Okay, we've got time for a couple of more questions. I have a question about cervical mucus. I'm not seeing much cervical mucus. What can I do to increase the amount of cervical mucus? So that's a great question. So if you chart, and I highly recommend that you do start charting if you haven't been charting. And even though apps and those wearables are fantastic, just using the good old-fashioned digital thermometer and printing out your chart can be very helpful in learning about your cycle. So your cervical mucus is produced under the influence of estrogen. As each month when you get your period, so cycle day 1 is the day that the bright red blood starts flowing. So spotting, brown spotting, that belongs to the previous cycle, okay? When the bright red blood shows up, that's the first day of your cycle. So from there until ovulation, your estrogen levels are steadily rising. When the estrogen levels peak, there will be a trigger. So LH will be triggered, luteinizing hormone that will release the egg from the follicle. We call this ovulation. Up until that point, your estrogen is steadily rising, and you can see that in your chart by a temperature steadily dropping. Okay, under the influence of estrogen, your temperature stays low and it gets lower. And right before ovulation, if you chart, you will see there is a dip in your temperature followed by a sharp rise. And the sharp rise is under the influence of progesterone. When the egg is released from the follicle, progesterone surges because the progesterone is being produced by corpus luteum, which is the leftover of the burst follicle. So that's producing progesterone, so your temperature starts rising and your fertile mucus dries up. So you actually have, a smaller window to observe your fertile mucus. And oftentimes women miss their most fertile mucus when they go to the bathroom, okay? Because this mucus is highly slippery and stretchy. It can just come out. So sometimes if you're concerned about that, you can have a look in the toilet bowl. If you see any pearl-like formations, white pearl-like formations, that's likely fertile mucus. In the program, we also teach you various ways of checking for fertile mucus. And also, if through your observation, you notice that you are not producing enough fertile mucus, that's also a telltale sign that maybe your estrogen levels are not adequate. You can also confirm that by checking your FSH. If FSH is high, it means your body is not producing adequate levels of estrogen. But there's other factors too. If you ever had positive test result for your pap smear and you had to have a laser treatment that may have damaged some of the cervical crypts. So in your cervix, you have so-called cervical crypts, which are producing the fertile mucus. If they become damaged, they can become damaged through these procedures. They can also become damaged through vaginal birth. If there was any tearing of the cervix. But again, which one applies to you will be assessed during your initial consultation, where your coach will analyze your case and go, okay, so there's not as much fertile mucus since giving birth or since this procedure. So it's easier to then assess the real cause, and then also give you the right treatment for it. All right, we have time for one more quick question. My husband goes to bed very late, after midnight, and has to get up very early. Does this impact his sperm quality? That's a great question, and sleep is very important. Some of us are night owls. Some of us need our 8 hours of sleep. It really depends. In those cases where someone is really attached to their way of living because it's just how they always were, and some people work late. They come home at 8, they need to relax and chill a bit, then they want to have their dinner, they eat late, then they can't go to bed straight away with a full stomach, and they just want to switch off and just take some time for themselves before they go to bed. Hi, Juliana from Ghana. Hi. That's fine. We need to respect that. So in those scenarios, I always say, let's check the sperm first. Let's do some preliminary blood work, just assess the health to see whether this really is an issue for this person or not. If it is an issue, then there are lots of things that we can do to help bring the sleep into more normal ranges. Essentially, at 9 p.m. is when your melatonin peaks. Melatonin, as you probably know, is a super fertility hormone that acts as an antioxidant. It's anti-cancer, improves egg quality, improves sperm quality, helps us reach that deep restorative sleep. And even just applying slight pressure in the back of your neck stimulates production of melatonin. So just reclining around 9 p.m. is very useful. So even if you just go to your bed, put your pajamas on, brush your teeth, be ready to sleep, and read a book, something light, something inspiring, not something heavy, action-packed that'll get your adrenaline going. No, the adrenaline works opposite to melatonin. If your body is perceiving stress, the last thing it wants to do is let you go to sleep because your life is at stake. At least that's how your body is interpreting. It doesn't know that you're just reading a book or you're watching a Netflix series. So, like I said, just going to bed, putting your head on the pillow and reading the book, you'll see that within half an hour, 20 minutes, your eyes are going to start going like this. It's going to be very hard to keep them open because melatonin is being secreted. But again, like I said, it can. Poor sleep quality can definitely impact fertility in both men and women, but it just depends on the context, of why is this person going to bed late? Do they have insomnia? That's something else. Are they snoring? Do they have sleep apnea? That's really nasty because it can deprive the body of oxygen. So there are so many possibilities, and that's why there is no one treatment or one recommendation for everyone, but each case needs to be assessed on an individual basis, and also the treatment plan needs to be tailored to each individual case. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining the Q&A live today. If some questions come up after this broadcast has ended, feel free to type them below this video and we will answer them at latest tomorrow, because here in Europe it's already end of the day, but we will receive answers to your questions. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day or evening wherever you are. Bye-bye.